All right, in this episode, we talk about, is bicycling good for the pitcher?
And upper body plyometrics.
CEO Stephen Godani here at the @TopVelocity #PitchTips show. We go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat @TopVelocity #PitchTips. Ask your question, we answer it on the show. We got locked out of Snapchat the other day.
Yeah.
You know, I had to actually email Snapchat.
Oh, that's how you got it back on?
Yeah, to get it back on. Snapchat's getting huge to the point where they just lock you out for some weird reason. I think it's because we had a third-party app or something.
Third-party platform.
We weren't trying to do anything illegal. I mean,
no.
What can you do illegal with?
Videos.
What could you do illegal with Snapchat?
I don't know. Terrorism. You can for sure get on.
Yeah.
I'm just going into it.
Yeah, good job. You look like one, actually.
Oh, thanks.
Your beard.
It's been way worse, man. Like when I first started doing the show, people were leaving comments and saying I look homeless.
Homeless. Yeah, we could say homeless. We could say, like a baseball player.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
all right, Pocket Radar guys. Hey, I've been talking about this a lot just because we use it a lot in our programs, and they've given us a discount right now. So I don't know how much longer they're going to do this. So it's $2.99 for this, which is great when you look at the prices of radars. And this is as good or better than anyone you'll get. It's a lot more convenient, and it's just important to have one. I couldn't have this when I was young. We need it because we need to keep measuring, and measuring med throws and target throws in the 3X programs are huge because you can see progression. You can see when things aren't working. You can see when your body's not recovered. I mean, you need to know those things because going off a feeling of, yeah, man, that feels great. A lot of time you realize you were off. It wasn't what you were feeling, or you were feeling something that wasn't really effective, and then it's a better learning process. You just learn better when you're measuring something. Like we measure the Huddle app, we measure biomechanics with the app, and we do it with my biomechanics system. We want to get more in depth, and we got this. And I'm also working on some other products to give us even more tools for measuring.
Even in weightlifting, I measure everything. I got the Tendo unit.
Yeah, we've got a Tendo unit.
Jump mat.
The jump mat. Yeah, we're constantly measuring to see where we are, because you could easily sit in a program for 2 months and then go measure and nothing changed. So to avoid that, we've got to measure. Okay.
Constantly adapt.
All right, what's the first question for today?
Titan asks, hey Brent, I know running long distance has negative effects on explosiveness, but what about bike riding?
It doesn't matter what you do. It could be Olympic lifting. If you do it in a low intensity, long interval, then it becomes aerobic. So it's really anything that's aerobic training is incompatible with anaerobic training. So we have 2 studies that say it's incompatible, meaning if you do some type of aerobic training, it will take away from your anaerobic power. So if you took, for example, let's look at an Olympic lifter. They're the best at power. They're elite power machines. And we put them long distance cycling or long distance running or crossfitting with, the bar doing 100 power cleans in 2 minutes. They're gonna lose anaerobic power when they go back to their lifts and they go into their maxes. Their power is gonna come down. They've done this over time. So yes, cycling long distance can take down power. Great example is Jose Fernandez. Big cycling, like they were talking about how he did this cycling, long distance cycling, the year before he tore his Tommy John. Now, was that the link to the Tommy John? No, he was throwing a lot of high pitched games that year and he was throwing hard as hell. But did that have an effect? I would say yes. And here's the thing is, we know back leg drives linked to wrist velocities, which doesn't always increase ball velocities because you can still overcompensate. So say Jose Fernandez did that, he was doing these long distance cycling events, the whole off-season training. They said he just got shredded from doing it, which is tons and tons of anaerobic training. There's still some leg strengthening in there. There's hills and there's resistance to it, yeah, but a lot of anaerobic stuff in there. So he was just building a lot of anaerobic energy. His body was built to go lower, a little bit lower intensity for longer periods of time. So maybe he came into that season, the legs weren't like they were the year before, but he was still able to overcompensate. Maybe he started early trunk rotating more that year. I don't know, because of that. And then Tommy John surgery. I guarantee you, if we we're able to test it, there's a good chance it had an effect. on him. So you got to be careful, guys. And unfortunately, that's why I'm very careful in supporting any arm-based approaches, because we throw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of throws. So changing the dynamics of how we do that by losing a little leg power to gain a little more overcompensation and try to force internal rotation, 300 throws later, that could have been detrimental. The next 100 throws, maybe we don't see anything, but by the end of the year, we see it. So I'm very careful mechanically addressing too much upper body training and not focus on lower half where the force is generated, where it more efficiently supports the arm. And I'm also just as careful in my training. Am I training the lower half to be more explosive, or am I training it to break down and be able to handle more reps at a lower intensity? That's what I focus on more and important. So yeah, I'm concerned about cycling because it typically pushes into long distance work. What do you want to add?
I think the body is just an amazing adapter. So it really will adapt to what kind of stress you're putting on. Like Brent's saying, if you're going on 30-mile bike rides, it's going to adapt to those 30-mile bike rides and start creating more aerobic training, more slow twitch muscle fiber to be able to handle what you're doing. And then if you're doing power-based training, it'll adapt to the power-based training. So if you're adding both of those together, you're really just knocking each one down. So if you're trying to build power and you're doing aerobic training, then you're not going to have as good as power gains. If you're trying to train for aerobics and you're doing power stuff, you're knocking heads with each other. So,
and you might not notice if you're someone who has a high amount of fast twitch muscle fiber. Yeah. If you're just a guy genetically has a lot of fast twitch muscle fiber, which is probably Jose Fernandez, and you go out and do a lot of aerobic training, you might notice a little bit, but you still can probably overcompensate and stay at a high level of ball speed. Okay? There's guys who can do that and get away with it, but then there's guys that are so challenged just to get that kind of level of ball speed that if they dabble in any of that aerobic training, it's detrimental. It just kills them, to them being at that ball speed. AKA me, coming out of rotator cuff surgery. I had obsessively drive power and good biomechanics to convert that. So, anytime I'd lay off lifting, anytime I change my training to more aerobic training, ball speed would just come crashing down.
I would say that's 95% of people.
Exactly. So I remember having a kid come out of here, I'm not going to say his name, comes into here, touches 95, not in here, touches 95 when he went out to season, came in here at like 78. The reason I didn't make him a testimonial is because he did some other programs, and I'm strict to sticking to guys who's just on my program. But his dad calls me up a year later and says he has to come back. He's throwing 82 and he's lost 30 pounds. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, because their coaches are doing all this long distance running or all this aerobic training and they won't let him lift. And it just literally touching 95 to sitting 82, that's unbelievable. You're right. And it's probably gonna be more common that way than the other way. Good question. Next question.
El Caballete asks, does shoulders plyometric training exist?
Yeah, it exists. It's in our program. So just basically explosive upper body training. At the same time, too, it still goes into velocity specificity. If we are pushing heavier loads, typically when they're heavy, we're pushing them as much intent to push them as we can. When we then reduce those loads or take those loads off, then we go faster with the lighter weight. That's the purpose of doing heavy loads. So if you're just doing upper body plyometrics with light weight to try to get more motor unit recruitment, more hypertrophy of fast twitch muscle fiber, not going to be as effective as doing heavy loads, aka just doing weighted balls. Weighted balls, yeah, maybe in external rotation, it's maxing it out. But we're also finding too, just doing the interview with Mike Reinold is that good loads in external rotation? When he's finding it might be unraveling the shoulder. It might be stretching the labrum and not the subscapularis. So is that the way to go? No. And so in our upper body plyometric work, yeah, we'll do with the med balls, but at the same time, we're benching heavy and we're pulling heavy as well. We're doing both. Anything you add?
Yeah, you stole my thing. I was going to say that it's just that's what they're going for with weighted balls with a heavier weighted ball and then pair it up with an underweighted ball, and it's kind of like doing like touched on this before, like a heavy squat and then go into like a plyometric. But again, that's something that all arm-based focus, and I think you're kind of losing the principle of what we preach about lower half power. I'm sure El Cabiet has been following us for a while, so I'm not saying that's for him, but it's just, I think when I hear like, hey, is there anything arm related plyometrically that I can do, I think they're starting to lose focus on lower half power, ground reaction forces, everything coming from the ground up, kinetic chain, to hey, I want to see if I can speed my arm up, which would be weighted ball type things. Yep,
good point. You know, our feeling on this, we're pretty strict on energy has to come from the ground. If it doesn't come from the ground, it's not built in the lower half, then you overcompensate and you fall into injury. You're going to fall into UCL injury, shoulder injury. So we've got to focus on the lower half and be predominantly focused there through our entire careers if we want to have healthy, long careers.
Yeah. First can I say this too? Every sport uses lower half. I don't understand where baseball is getting lost. I'm writing an article on this too. Like, I don't understand where baseball is getting lost on power coming from the ground up and pitching and everything. At just some point they're just like, everybody just goes to the arm. I don't understand. Like, it literally just baffles me.
Yeah, and I'm reading the book The Arm that just came out, and so far it's a good book. But I'm really curious to see how he really focused on the lower half, because the whole book's about how to protect his 5-year-old son from having arm injury. I hope at the end he's going, all that matters is just building the lower half, like weighted balls, all that, throw away, focus on the lower half. If we build an explosive lower half and a strong body to handle the torques, and we teach the body to transfer energy up the chain and not overcompensate for the lack of energy, his 5-year-old son will be healthy the rest of his career. I hope that's the end of the book. And when I finish the book, I'll be glad to do a review.
That's not going to be the end of the book.
Well, see, I don't know. I mean, we could be totally wrong. I could get to the end of the book and be like, damn it, he did it. He figured it out. But if not, he'll hear a review from me. Okay. All right, good questions. See you in the next episode. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, at TopVelocity, hashtag pitch tips, ask your question, answer the show. 2x3x camps. Go book those. We'll see you on the next episode.